So we have made tomato-based sauces, tomatillo-based sauces, and now we're going to make a chili-based sauce. This family of sauces is called adobos, and adobos can only be two things. Basically, they're made with the same ingredients, generally dried chiles of the large ones, and they can be made with anchos, guajillos, pasillas, or mulatos. Those are the only chiles used in adobos. In some other parts of the country, they may use smaller chiles that are they're very, very spicy. So in most of homes and your operations, we're going to make adobos out of guajillos, anchos, mulatos, or pasillas only. An adobo can be a paste that we marinate things in, or an adobo can be a stew in which the proteins have cooked in. And depending on what we want, we are depending on the spiciness and the balance of the spices. So right now, we're going to make an adobo that is going to marinate raw proteins that then we're going to cook. So we want a pretty strong marinade with lots of garlic flavor and a big kick of spices, because only a small film is going to coat the fish or the chicken, and we're going to then grill them or pan-sear them or steam them, as some steamed chickens we're going to see later on. So for that, we have soaked chiles. Again, revise our techniques. These chiles have been only soaked. They have not been toasted, because as we're going to use this adobo for grilling, we want the chili flavor to be raw when it goes into the protein. So these are chiles guajillos and a couple of chiles de árbol to kick the guajillos up, okay? Now, a very important part of this is we do not use the water in which the chiles have soaked for the first time, unless you have washed the chiles first. So we get a little bit of fresh water in it with the cloves of garlic, a couple of cloves, a couple of peppercorns. You have a recipe for this, and we're just making, remember, in here we're making smaller batches than what you will be doing, okay? And strangely enough, a small piece of ginger. This is basically new to a lot of the Mexican cooks, but it is used in many parts of Mexico, and particularly up in the northern parts, and Jalisco uses a little bit of ginger in their adobos. So not a lot of adobos have ginger. This one has. Why? Because it gave a stronger kick to an adobo that is going to marinate things, okay? So another secret here is we go adding water little by little. So you may want to add only a quarter of a cup first, and then turn these on. Okay, so what we have now, it's this wonderful paste of chiles, garlic, and spices. Now, this is going to go on seared steak, chicken, fish, chicken wings, name it. It can go anywhere. You just make sure that the protein that you're doing it, because in our operations sometimes, you know, when chicken comes in those bags and it's very wet, so just make sure that it, you know, dry it out with some paper towels so the adobo sticks to it, because if there's too much water in the chicken and the adobo is, it will wash out. So, and try to let it marinate for as long as you can, okay? That's why you don't use salt or acid here at the beginning. You add that later on. Now, for larger batches, what you would have is this big bucket with all these chiles soaking. So you grab an immersion blender, and that will help you get started. But you still need to bring them up to the smaller blenders, particularly a Vitamix blender, and that will finish up the process. But to start them, you can start them as with many other of the sauces in larger batches, you start with all your roasted produces or your boiled produces or whatever you have in the buckets. You start them with the immersion blender, and then you pass them to the small blender. Okay? So basically, this is an adobo made of chile guajillo, and use it for any purpose.